What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Actuali Podcast and our weekly live stream series, Meaning Making 101, where we try to make sense of this crazy world together and see how we may best help change that world from the inside out. It's all about being that change we wish to see in this world, fam. There's no other way that we can do this. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. I'm Chris.
I'm DJ.
And today we're going to continue our deep dive into theologian David Bentley Hart's essay, Christ and Nothing. It is really something quite ahead of the curve, I feel, what Hart is offering here. And I do believe that this gives us something of a solution to the meaning crisis we find ourselves in this time of increasing nihilism, discord, social division, and social breakdown. So, just to give you guys a quick synopsis once again of this essay. In a world starved for meaning, where ancient pagans danced with fate's tragic beauty, and today's new age wanderers chase self-made vibes like fleeting highs, David Bentley Hart unveils a shocking twist that these paths crumble into isolation or despair, trapping us in cycles of chaos or shallow ego. But imagine a divine love that crashes into history, not as cold logic or distant myth, but as the living word made flesh, conquering emptiness through raw sacrifice and resurrection, turning our deepest aches into an eternal embrace. This isn't just theology, it's the ultimate rebellion against nothingness. Y'all remember the never-ending story in the Nothing? People had lost their hopes and dreams, and the nothing was taking over the world. So this isn't just theology, it's the ultimate rebellion against nothingness, beckoning nihilists, skeptics, and seekers alike to discover why only this revelation can truly satisfy the soul's cry. So, tune in, fam. We're going to do a quick recap of where we left off. Just get to my notes here. And the last paragraph of the essay from last episode, Hart was discussing how Jesus' death isn't a typical sacrifice to appease God like the old pagan sacrifices were, where we would sacrifice, one's red heifer or firstborn child or what have you to appease the gods and stop the flood or what have you. In the Bible, it's about drawing close to God, who gives life freely without needing anything in return, unconditional. Jesus' life of love and service was a new kind of sacrifice, one that God accepts while rejecting the old idea of killing to maintain order. And that sets us up to jump back in where we left off last time, guys. So we're just going to kind of jump back in towards the end of the last section we were looking at last episode. So let's go ahead and jump on over. Here we go.
It is instead a penitent approach to a God who gives life freely, and who not only does not profit from the holocaust of the particular, but who in fact fulfills the sacrifice simply by giving his gift again. This giving again is itself, in fact, a kind of sacrificial motif in Hebrew scripture, achieving its most powerful early expression in the story of Isaac's Akedah, and arriving at its consummation, perhaps, in Ezekiel's vision in the Valley of Dry Bones. After all, a people overly burdened by the dolorous superstitions of tragic wisdom could never have come to embrace the doctrine of resurrection.
So that's where we left off.
I am tempted to say, then, that the cross of Christ is not simply a sacrifice, but the place where two opposed understandings of sacrifice clashed. Christ's whole life was a reconciling curban, an approach to the Father, a real indwelling of God's glory in the temple of Christ's body, and an atonement made for a people enslaved to death. In pouring himself out in the form of a servant, and in living his humanity as an offering up of everything to God in love, the shape of the eternal Son's life was already sacrificial in this special sense. And it was this absolute giving, as God and man, that was made complete on Golgotha. While from a pagan perspective, the crucifixion itself could be viewed as a sacrifice in the most proper sense, destruction of the agent of social instability for the sake of peace, which is always a profitable exchange, Christ's life of charity, service, forgiveness, and righteous judgment could not. Indeed, it would have to seem the very opposite of sacrifice, an economic and indiscriminate inversion of rank and order. Yet at Easter, it is the latter that God accepts and the former he rejects. What then of all the hard-won tragic wisdom of the ages? Naturally also with...
Okay. So, not a typical sacrifice to appease God. This is certainly about drawing closer to God, who gives life freely without needing anything, like the old gods that demanded sacrifice and could be quite vengeful when they were upset. This is basically turning the Old Testament God as well into something that is much more unconditionally loving and willing to let go of the need for sacrifice.
Well, I may be wrong, but I think this is the first time a god has ever sacrificed something for humans as far as religion goes.
And Jesus certainly did make of his entire life a sacrifice.
I could be wrong, but as far as like a god or gods sacrificing their children for humanity to forgive humanity, that's kind of a very new thing.
It seems like
because usually you sacrifice to the god. Like if you were going with like old school pagan gods, you sacrifice to the god of the rain because either there's too much rain or you need more rain. You sacrifice to the volcano so it doesn't blow you up. You sacrifice to this, that, or the other because you need something. Or then when you get into the, the Jews, early Jews, they would have different sacrifices for different transgressions, different burnt offerings, different, whether it's, oil, flesh, or plant matter, for all different reasons. But I may be wrong. Hey, in the comments, if you guys can think of any other, story where a god sacrificed for humans, like specifically for humans, not like for their own glory to be the top god or anything like that, but specifically for humans, let me know. I don't know. I've never seen it, so
I'd be interested to hear about that.
Found that interesting.
Yeah, right. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and let me get this next one up and ready to rock. Back a little bit. All right, here we go, fam. We're jumping back in.
Of all the hard-won tragic wisdom of the ages. Naturally also with the death of the old mythos, metaphysics too was transformed. For one thing, while every ancient system of philosophy had to presume an economy of necessity, binding the world of becoming to its inmost or highest principles, Christian theology taught from the first that the world was God's creature in the most radically ontological sense, that it is called from nothingness, not out of any need on God's part, but by grace. The world adds nothing to the being of God, and so nothing need be sacrificed for his glory or sustenance. In a sense, God and world alike were liberated from the fetters of necessity. God could be accorded his true transcendence and the world its true character as divine gift. The full implications of this probably became visible to Christian philosophers only with the resolution of the 4th century Trinitarian controversies. When the subordinationist schemes of Alexandrian Trinitarianism were abandoned, and with them the last residue within theology of late Platonism's vision of a descending scale of divinity mediating between God and world, the both of them comprised in a single totality.
Wow.
In any event, developed...
That's interesting.
Sorry about the echo, guys. Did you bring
let me bring this down a little bit here. I'll pull this guy out as well.
He has a very deep, penetrating voice, and
that he does.
It travels.
Yeah, so Christianity also changed philosophy by teaching that the world is God's free gift, not a system of necessity. This freed God from being part of the world's rules and gave the world a new meaning as something created out of love, not obligation. I like how Hart puts it, that this is finally like recognizing God's true transcendence. Of course, he doesn't need anything from the world. He's everything. He's the source of everything.
Yeah, I will disagree with a little bit of the characterization of, the world does nothing for God. I think we do, and I think that's part of the purpose, but it's like
he doesn't need it.
He doesn't need it.
Yeah.
Right. Where like our relationship with God definitely does something for
Whereas
God
with the old gods,
us.
they certainly needed that sacrifice to be able to stop the storms or what.
You could say a god would disappear if it didn't have enough people worshiping it or remembering it in those times, right?
Yeah, really.
And I know, like, fiction has played with that idea a lot. Like, what was it? What was that old King Merlin, the movie Merlin, and then Queen Mab, like, look at me, and everybody just forgot her, and she started disappearing. Look at me. Yeah. So those were the old gods,
Interesting. Yeah, here you go. One of those guys. There you are.
All right.
Alrighty, fam. So let's go ahead and continue on with Mr. David Bentley Hart here, pulling him back just a wee bit. We jumping back. Let's go.
The both of them comprised in a single totality. In any event, developed Christian theology rejected nothing good in the metaphysics, ethics, or method of ancient philosophy, but, with a kind of omnivorous glee, assimilated such elements as served its ends, and always improved them in the process. Stoic morality, Plato's language of the good, Aristotle's metaphysics of act and potency, all became richer and more coherent when emancipated from the morbid myths of sacrificial economy and tragic necessity. In truth, Christian theology nowhere more wantonly celebrated its triumph over the old gods than in the use it made of the so-called spolia Egyptorum, and by despoiling pagan philosophy of its most splendid achievements and integrating them into a vision of reality more complete than philosophy could attain on its own. Wow. Theology took to itself irrevocably all the intellectual glories of antiquity. The temples were stripped of their gold and precious ornaments. The sacred vessels were carried away into the precincts of the church and turned to better uses, and nothing was left behind but a few grim, gaunt ruins to lure back the occasional disenchanted Christian and shelter a few atavistic ghosts.
Wow. By rejecting other gods, Christianity reshaped every part of life, society, religion, and thought. But when Christianity fades, the beauty and the wisdom it preserved also vanishes, leaving only nihilism, a culture obsessed with individual will, my truth, and nothing deeper.
There's interesting imagery there of, Christianity taking the gold and the vessels and other things into back chambers into itself, and then leaving nothing but like a ruin, that the disenchanted Christians go back to, the neo-pagans, whatever you want to call them, go back into. And yes, physically that did happen, like putting a church on a previous site. That, for all religions do that to each other. But then also something unique with Christianity is as it spread through Europe and other places in the world, there was a taking in of certain traditions and ritual sites and rituals into that region's version of Christianity as it moved around. It wasn't just all conquest, you're going to rule it, you're going to be a Christian exactly like this. A lot of it was pagans just being like, okay, new God, this God's stronger than our God. We worship this God, and then they
the various
integrate.
pagan sects to try and keep them from fighting amongst one another, and then the various Christian sects, and is trying to marry everything together. And humans have done this multiple times over throughout history. We often do incorporate our different spiritual motifs into the newest version of spirituality that comes along. It adopts these different motifs into it to try and include everyone that it can, like the ancient frescoes or wall paintings on the sides of an ancient abbey in France. They found a depiction of the tree of, was it the tree of life or
probably
good and evil? That's depicted where Adam and Eve are, and it's depicted as a mushroom. And because the whole story was,
Well, and the thing is it's only natural to, like, as religions spread, they will naturally pick up the flavor of the area they're in, unless they're completely like top-down totalitarian.
Even the mushroom fertility cults that existed in that region at that time, and which is where adopted in Christianity.
So yeah,
that's where you get Easter, the celebration of life coming back, and
why we
making babies, birds and bees and rabbits, make lots of babies.
Specifically at this point in time in the spring,
exactly.
And actually, in a way,
that's an old pagan motif carried into Christianity.
You could say that's another, to use biblical terms, it's another example of Jesus stepping on the head of the serpent. While you replace the heathen god, that's the debauchery, like Esther, the Esther ritual where you'd have babies and make all the babies and stuff, and then you'd sacrifice them to
the babies.
you'd sacrifice the babies and stuff like that. Well, you do your Easter holiday around the time where people used to worship the debauchery, replace it with something pure, and then Jesus is twice or yet again crushing the head of the serpent.
Yeah.
So I guess the crux we're in, though, is it became so monolithic and replaced those gods when it started to disappear in the everyday practice of people. We lost our mooring.
We lost
because
our mooring
even
completely.
These old imperfect gods were still a mooring for cultures and for people.
And that's why it feels like there's demons popping up everywhere.
Well,
right
and
now.
there probably are.
And people are
I
acting
guarantee you there are
in
demons
ways that we
popping
would
up.
consider demonic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, call them demons, call them spirits, call them whatever you are, but
Or just super narcissistic,
Well, the disorganized spirits of the people.
Yeah. Yeah. People that are super self-involved.
And let's not forget that there actually are
very
spirits,
nasty, very cruel,
good
very quick
spirits
to hate.
and terrible spirits out there in the world for real. You can't measure them, but they're there. There's a reason why we have been talking about them for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. They're there. And if you
And they're manifestations,
if you remove the protections that you have from it, good religions are a good protection from them.
And demon can be seen as just a deep metaphor for like an emotional miasma that can take over one's better senses.
Yeah, I do believe though that they are real, but not in the sense of
The way we
pointy
probably
tail
think.
pitchfork.
Yeah,
Before there was material forces, they were there as well.
right. There's probably a lot of layers to all of this. You could say, of course, there's this scientifically explainable side to everything, and I think that layer is always there. There's a way you can break down and see how, okay, this person was poorly conditioned, they have a bad diet, there's a lot of depression and anxiety and things going on inside of them. This is why they're acting this way. But on another layer, deeper or transcending, you could say, there's this spiritual layer where there's these things that are, it's hard to think about this because it's multidimensional and we're kind of used to this 3D perspective, but you can almost get there to where you can see how there could be both and, instead of it just being its spiritual reality or its physical, scientifically explainable reality, it's both together.
Scientifically explained reality, just because we haven't explained it yet with science doesn't mean it can't be explained with science.
Yeah, and it's like with evolution, I don't think that either God just created the earth and humans never evolved from apes, or humans evolved from apes and there's no such thing as God. I think it's both. I think that obviously this God is incredibly sophisticated beyond our comprehension, and it's only a compliment that God would create this process of evolution. And we would get to this point to where we would have free will and then have to learn how to use it responsibly.
Yeah, well, we already took a bite.
I think it's an insult that we came from apes.
We took a bite of the apple of, instead of calling it the apple of the knowledge of good and evil, the apple of I can make the decision myself. So we're going to have to figure it out.
I think the great danger for any ideology, religious or not, is ideological possession to the point of extreme certainty and fundamentalism.
Well, I think that's where
just sheer dogmatism.
That's where it becomes demonic, as in possession.
It relies on dogma. It relies on shaming. It's you're doing the thing wrong if you're getting to that point. Well, I think that's why Christianity got such a bad name, because a lot of organized Christianity was that, to some degree.
Well, not to blame the Protestants, but Protestants did a lot of good, but also, the fracturing into the different sometimes
Luther
cults.
could not have expected what was going to be the fallout of the Protestant movement.
Now, mind you.
And so, great intentions, beautiful intentions. They did some really good things. The Protestant work ethic is amazing. But yes, you opened the door.
Mennonites are pretty cool.
To scientism and everything else. All these other isms can now come along.
Or, you got the Westboro Baptist cult that, I don't even know if you can really call them Baptists. You've got the Episcopalian people now that are all about bringing the trans stuff and all that. Then you've got the Anglican Church is now falling apart. But I guess the thing in there is it's fracturing. It's so you know what Catholic means? Like the Catholic Church means universal, the universal church, right? And then there was a schism, and then the Orthodox think they're the traditional way of doing it. And the Catholics are like, well, this is the universal way of doing it. And then, in Martin Luther's time, he felt that the Catholics were getting a little bit too big for their britches and being quite tyrannical, which he may have been right. and then there's a fracturing from that. You got the Lutherans, but you've got the Methodists and the United Methodists. So it's completely broken down, and there's no real agreement on what we believe. And the more you break down the churches, the less people you have in the church, the smaller the community of the church is. One thing that keeps the Catholics going is they have a huge community, right? Even, Catholics in Africa are Catholics, Catholics in Europe are Catholics, Catholics in South America are Catholics, Catholics in America are Catholics. And so, and I'm not a Catholic myself. I don't agree with some of their ideas about the Pope and his position. So, but I'm not dogging the Catholics either. They're a good example of trying not to let Christianity, or trying to resist Christianity evaporating.
Yeah.
Whether I agree or not on exactly what they believe or what they believe the Pope is. I don't really like all the gold and pomp and ceremony that goes with it, but they're doing something right. And you can look at the Jews, no matter what they've gone through, they have retained being the strongest tribe of people on the planet, the most successful. And I think that's why a lot of people hate the Jews.
They became that way because they had to figure out how to survive, huh?
Well, and also just, they
were constantly being come after.
I think the Torah the first 5 books, or the first part of the Old Testament was a good stories on like how you should live your life. And then you build a culture around being successful, not complaining about your hardships in life, giving the appropriate sacrifices in life to God as well as to your family. It does something. It holds people together. And that's the thing I feel we're losing in Christianity, even seeing with a large rise of Christianity is, we've become very atomized as Christians and individualized. And, I'm probably the wrong person to complain about individualism because I am a very individualistic person. I ultimately believe the prime unit of existence is the individual, and then the relationships between individuals, creating then a super individual, if you will. But individualism atomizes. You can think of that as just dissolving, misting out. And we need to figure out something. This is the age to figure out something as Christians, what to do to bring people together. And I don't think it's, going to be necessarily make a new church. But it's going to take, it's going to take a lot of digging on. Okay, all of these Christians at least believe in this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and then really, really, really hash out what the differences are. Yes. Because if Catholics have beliefs that, if I talk with them long enough, they'll be like, oh, actually, that does make a lot more sense.
Yeah,
that does seem real. Then I'd be willing to take that in. I will never be a Catholic. I'm baptized Catholic. I got problems with it that make it so I can't be a Catholic, even though I have a lot of affinity for the Catholics.
So if we can recapitulate the basic, most fundamental precepts that we can all agree on, not just amongst Christians in the various sects, but amongst in an interfaith dialogue with other faiths as well, other religious systems really need to be doing this.
This. And for those who consider themselves good Muslims, y'all need to do this too.
Yeah, of course, everybody.
And be okay with sometimes being like, yeah, my beliefs in this don't hold up, and I feel bad for it.
I want to know the value orientation of everybody. If you identify as a pagan or Wiccan or you're Native American, what are the basic precepts that, what is it that inspires you about this spiritual practice?
Yeah, and what's the closest we can get to?
What can we agree on?
The truth of it, capital T truth.
Yeah, and then can we learn to dialogue together? Can we approach dialogue together and be oriented in such a way that we're trying to understand one another and work together to figure out a viable solution for one and all? Because if that's not the orientation, if the goal is not the same, we're just going to be debating over who has the better point, and we're going to just be on this I'm right, you're wrong kind of tit for tat back and forth.
Yeah, and
we really have
wrong,
to orient
therefore you're evil.
Towards a shared goal.
Yeah, that.
And right now we don't have that. We've been so effectively pit against one another. We are so well divided right now, and it's hard to believe that we even can pull it back together. But God, even if there's a 1% chance of being able to do that, I really hope that we try our damnedest to do so. With all of our hearts, I hope we try, because
1% chance is still pretty good chances. That's
better
one
than
out
nothing,
of
man.
That's 1 out of 100.
I'm
That's
also
way
going to feel
than
better on
lottery.
my deathbed that at least we tried.
Yeah.
And we know we went out beautifully. So let's do the best we can while we still can, fam.
Yeah.
And let's
hey,
go ahead.
Even if you're not a Christian, you can still do that too, right? So
amen. You know,
either way, we all win.
You know, and you don't have to even be religious to recognize the beauty of Christ's way and seek to follow that way of being as well. You know, you don't have to consider yourself religious or even call yourself a Christian. But I think that you can call yourself a Christian and still not necessarily be a part of a religion, so to speak, in the traditional sense of understanding.
Well, I'll put it this way.
A lot of Christians will say that. Well, I follow Christ. I don't believe that following Christ is actually a religion. Christ was the repudiation of all these religious systems that came before, the dogmatism and the fundamentalism.
Yeah.
And then we wrapped them up into a new fundamentalist box.
Yeah, I'm not a Buddhist, but I can appreciate a lot about, quite a bit about what Prince Siddhartha was talking about once he reached that state of his development. Yeah. So, you know, I'm not a Buddhist, but I can find truth in meaning that doesn't conflict with my Christianity.
Absolutely. And that's what I like about Hart, too, is that he looks to Hinduism and he looks to Buddhism and he looks to other, and he finds that there are very many complementary aspects in some of these other mystery schools or wisdom traditions.
You got to be,
but he does see Christ's way as the ultimate way to be able to solve the problem of nihilism. And so the nihilism we're facing right now, he thinks, and that's what he's positing in this essay, that Christ's way of being is the way for us to solve this problem.
Well, because it seems before that way was here, there was a lot of conflict and not much development.
And I think he's saying something deeper than we need religion. I think he's saying we need Christ's way of being.
Yeah.
You know, he's not just saying religion's the answer. He's saying there's a certain way of being that inspired this thing that we call Christianity.
Beyond religion. That
thing is the thing that we need to tap back into because we've lost track of it.
Yeah, it's beyond religion because, well, there wasn't a religion with Jesus's first pals when he started gathering his peoples. It wasn't. They were all Jews.
It was a way of being that they were exhibiting,
and they were doing that, and then eventually it became a cult and then a religion, right? But it was a way first that really draw people in.
Yeah,
because
aren't we all looking for a way?
Well, yeah, and particularly when you can see people that are like, they have a good life, they're really good people, and it inspires you. It's just like, okay, what is that way?
What is he doing? Yeah, what is that guy doing? Or that woman over there doing that? Gives them that spiritedness that they seem to have. Yeah, they seem naturally joyful and happy. Jesus
didn't function on a condemnation first mentality. It was an inspiration first, an inspiration and forgiveness first. And a purely selfless there were condemnations when he needed to.
Oh, sure. But he didn't waste time on them either. He made his point, and then he moved on to exhibiting the way. Exactly. He just moved right back into this loving way of being.
And ideally, that's the best example for, like, a good parent, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, here's the issue. I got to condemn you for this and admonish you for a minute. Do you understand? You understand? Okay, we're walking. Okay. Let's go.
Let's go. Yeah, right. I still love you.
Yeah.
I'm not holding any more.
You want to go jump in that puddle?
Anger. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's a complete switchback.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, fam. So let's go ahead. Let's jump back in here with Mr. David Bentley Hart. This is the essay Christ and Nothing. If you'd like to read it for yourself or listen to this reading of it for yourself, you can find the link to this video and the essay in the description. Here we go, jumping back.
Occasional disenchanted Christian and shelter a few atavistic ghosts. This last observation returns me at last to my earlier contention that Christianity assisted in bringing the nihilism of modernity to pass. The command to have no other God but him whom Christ revealed was never for Christians simply an invitation to forsake an old cult for a new, but was an announcement that the shape of the world had changed, from the depths of hell to the heaven of heavens, and all nations were called to submit to Jesus as Lord. In the great transvaluation that followed, there was no sphere of social, religious, or intellectual life that the Church did not claim for itself. Much was abolished, and much of the grandeur and beauty of antiquity was preserved in a radically altered form.
Yeah,
and Christian civilization, with its new synthesis and new creativity, was born. But what is the consequence then, when Christianity, as a living historical force, recedes? We have no need to speculate as it happens. Modernity speaks for itself. With the withdrawal of Christian culture, all the glories of the ancient world that it baptized and redeemed have perished with it in the general cataclysm. Christianity is the midwife of nihilism, not because it is itself nihilistic, but because it is too powerful in its embrace of the world and all of the world's mystery and beauty. And so to reject Christianity now is of necessity to reject everything except the barren anonymity of spontaneous subjectivity.
Wow.
As Ivan Karamazov's Grand Inquisitor tells Christ, the freedom that the gospel brings is too terrible to be borne indefinitely. Our sin makes us feeble and craven, and we long to flee from the liberty of the sons of God, but where now can we go? Everything is Christ's.
Wow. Oh my God. We're going to have to revisit that paragraph.
So,
that is profound.
Like that point about Christianity being the midwife of nihilism, and not in the sense that it's nihilistic in and of itself, but it's totality of, or it's the entirety of its grasp, or the world's entirety is within its grasp, and everything about the world. So in order to reject the world, you have to reject Christ. But in the other end, if you're rejecting Christianity, you're rejecting the world. So you're rejecting everything. Therefore nihilism.
Therefore nihilism.
Right.
So yeah, Christianity, of course, itself is not nihilistic, but it was the midwife of nihilism because it's so powerful in its embrace of the world and all the world's mystery and beauty. And so to reject Christianity now is of necessity to reject everything except the barren anonymity of spontaneous subjectivity. Wow.
Yeah, and that's...
I mean, you could think about that sentence, that one sentence alone for a month and be learning from it still.
Sure. But I want to... The subjectivity. We are in the world of subjectivity to the point right now where we're so close to having super realistic, completely subjective experience. Like, you put on the VR headset and it's your world. Burger King, have it your way.
Yeah, right.
Like
Doritos commercials, whereas like get your own bag so you can keep it to yourself because people are going to try and take it from you. Like, why would you want to share your Doritos?
Like personalized everything for you. And even in the idea scientifically, the rejection of object value or objective value, because if you look in like, psychology and history, you'll hear things like your truth or my truth and other stuff like that, where it's like, well, objective may be an ideal that we'll never completely reach, but it doesn't mean it's not a direction in which you can orient yourself to better understand a more of a whole of something. When doing an experiment, of course you can't be completely objective in the experiment because just you observing the experiment makes
but you can put some checks and balances
but you can get far enough away from it. Maybe you're not the one actually sitting there with your shaky hands trying to put these things together. You get a robot to do it that can do it super smooth, and you can remove yourself more and more and more. You'll never get to pure objective, but that doesn't mean objectivity isn't an orientation in a direction that we can't take. Right. Well, just like, perfection or being totally holy and good. Right.
You'll never get there, but you can always
we're all sinners, but that doesn't mean
direction.
We can't orientate ourselves towards being better and more whole and more good. And so, and right now we're in it. We're in the subjective nihilistic me time. You thought the 80s and the 90s were bad?
There is no actual fundamental truth. It's just your truth. Whatever you want to believe is fine.
And while your algorithm feed that's feeding you particularly and me particularly and somebody else, and then like even an event that's been recorded from multiple angles with video recording and all that stuff, we still can't agree on the truth. And now we've got extremely sophisticated AIs that the video is just like, dude.
Oh my God.
Like if I didn't know what to look for, evolving with AI, I wouldn't know.
I saw Stephen Hawking doing a backflip in his wheelchair.
McDonald's
in a WWE ring.
Or Michael Jackson stealing somebody's chicken.
Oh, yeah.
And doing that
or
thing.
Mr. Rogers and Tupac hanging out.
Yeah, but
that one's good.
The big thing right now is on Twitter is all the AI videos and people still taking it seriously. Or not AI videos, UFO videos.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, they're AI videos. Like 99.9999% of them. It's no longer fuzzy whatever, it's a balloon. It's like, look at this like in-depth cigar-shaped thing in Russia that then has, listen to the sound going off, and it's just like, Nah, bro. They're like, you mean somebody held the camera there and did all that just to edit over top of the AI thing? No, the whole thing
Is
the
AI.
camera shake, all that, the
everything
response,
is
the guy
AI.
talking in Russian is AI.
Is AI both? Yeah.
Oh boy, I feel really bad for like the grandpas and grandmas now, you know, because they're like, oh, look at this cute cat story.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And heads up, everybody, tell your family and friends, especially your elders that might not know better, that if somebody with your voice calls them and it sounds like you're in an emergency and you need some help or money or something like that, to actually hang up the phone and call you back on your actual number to make sure that that was really you, because they can copy people's voices so easily. Not everyone knows about this, but a lot of older people don't. And remember, remind your family, your parents, to have this conversation with them, or your grandparents, and say, hey, just remember that there's this stuff out there now you might have forgotten.
And that's actually
be aware.
That's actually been there for a while, like the fake ransom calls and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Well, now they're really easy to do on anybody, because you can take a little snippet of anyone's voice. And
the best thing you can do is
take it pretty accurately.
Remember back in the day, we were told to have a fire plan for your family or an emergency plan where you're all going to meet up, what you're going to do, where your entrances and exits are. You should continue to do that, but one part of it be like, let's all get together and do a core memory where you can be like, hey, remember we were at Grandpa's house and he caught that big trout?
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't a trout; it was a bass, and you can be like, it was it was a bass. It's very specific. It's a bass.
Yes. There you go.
So then they can be like, so you all know you have a key memory that all of you had together.
Make sure nobody's phones are in the room.
Well, I don't think we're at that point yet.
Right.
But as far as right now, you could run a sophisticated enough AI system probably for free on this video and get both of our voices just fine.
Oh, easily.
And then with basic knowledge of who grandma is and whatever, and then your standard terms that you would use to like, hey grandma, how you doing? I miss you, or Nana, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, no. Back to the subjectivity thing that led to this. We are in a subjective singularity at this point that we really need to break out of. And we can only do that individualistically at this point. Unfortunately, we need to, as individuals, break out of it.
As individuals, and start bringing it back together into community. Yeah. That's because without Christianity, no gods can replace, because Christ's story has taken in all the beauty and the truth of the old ways. Trying to go back to ancient beliefs doesn't work. Modern people know deep down that only faith in Christ can satisfy their longing for meaning. And I think that we do know this in our hearts.
Yeah, and there's no
any of us that grew up here, at least in the West, that was Christian influenced, feel these values running through our cultures.
And there's no
all men are created equal. All people matter. Their voices matter because Christ gave us that idea. We didn't have this idea prior to Christ.
Yeah,
for real. The world operated quite differently.
Yeah.
There's so much more injustice than there is now, and of course we're not perfect. We're still very flawed.
And there's no sneaking back.
We're work in progress.
There's no sneaking back into Eden. Going back into like the old ways, the old naturalistic traditions to gain that. We're not there anymore.
No, we're not.
Cognitively, we're not there anymore. Spiritually, we're not there anymore. And I don't even think going back into super traditionalistic Christianity is going to be the solution either. It's we need to re-embrace the old ways and the ways that work for
a literalist,
what we are now.
Purely literalist take on the Bible is not going to get us there.
No, and you miss like 3/4 of the beauty of the Bible.
Yeah, you do, because it's all deep metaphor that's talking
that all
about
loops back on itself.
Deep truths that can't be said in any other way than the vehicle of story.
I'm still thinking of the book of Genesis, like to this day. It still pops up in my head. It's just like, what really, like, what more
Speaking
did that
mean? I'm excited
to
get into Jordan Peterson's psychological significance of the biblical stories. That will be an upcoming series we'll do here soon.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah. So
if you like psychology,
it's probably a good time now for us to wind down. We're going to make this episode a little bit shorter than normal, guys. But appreciate you all so much for being here. If you have any thoughts, any questions, or anything you'd like to add, please feel free to do so now. We're live here on YouTube, Rumble, X, and Facebook, and all the places. Did I say Twitch? Twitch as well.
Got anybody down?
No, nobody as of yet today. But there's definitely some good news going on in the world. So let's go ahead and do our good news roundup. We do this every episode, Meaning Making 101, because there is so much bad news in this world, and we forget the beauty that is all around us, and that there are the helpers out there that Grandma told us to look for in times of crisis. And speaking of helpers, Let me go ahead and over to this page here.
Yeah, and sorry for the music being loud on the intro, but I'm still working out my choreography to do all this stuff. Just another instrument I'm learning how to play.
Oh, did I close down that page?
Oh no, closing down the good news.
I did close down a page.
Well, you know what? Here's some good news that's good news every day.
Yeah, you talk.
Jesus. It's the good news of Jesus.
Hey.
But you know, like
that guy's making a comeback right now.
Well, and like I get it. It seems hokey and embarrassing and everything to be like, you know, Jesus, but he's my Lord and Savior, and he's your Lord and Savior, and there's no doubt that as a person he existed. So you can't doubt that anymore. We have too much evidence. Now, whether he was God in the flesh, yeah, we can debate it. Let's go ahead and debate it. Like I feel like debating it for me is only going to strengthen my belief and my resolve. And, you know, since I've started trying to walk this path, and, you know, it's not easy. I'm kind of a piece of a shit human being for the most part. I'm sure y'all feel that way about yourselves occasionally, but I've been doing better. I've been finding more value. I've been connecting with my family more. Been able to deal with the rage and the depression a lot better. Yeah. I'm still rageful and depressed, but I mean, it's not as crippling as it used to be.
Yeah.
And it's not just this, oh, you say you believe and then it goes away. It's like, no, it's an embodying and embedding experience as well.
Once you start facing the inconsistencies within oneself, you start to take ownership of your life, and you start to get a sense of control again, don't you? You start to feel a sturdier ground beneath you, because you do have a transcendent set of values to align yourself with and seek to uphold and push towards. It gives you something good to strive forward towards. So it's given us meaning and purpose again, and something to do that's not just for ourselves, but for others. It's a life of service once again. You know, and guys, you know, find productive outlets out there that are, you know, beneficial for yourself and others. Yep. You know, we make music together. We have a band, American Dharma. We're getting ready to put a new album out.
Coming out.
Really excited about this album. I'm kind of surprised by what we pulled off. And so it's you guys did amazing work, and our good friend Mark did an incredible job mixing things together. And so yeah, we're in the final stages of mixing right now, and we'll be having this come out here in probably the next couple months or so. So stay tuned for that. We actually have links to our band in the description as well, guys. So check us out. American Dharma in the house. So here's some good news, some really good news. Everybody in the world has heard about it, I would imagine, by now. Following President Trump's ceasefire deal, thousands of Palestinians are headed back to Gaza City. Look at this.
Obviously, the ceasefire is holding. The ceasefire
5 days ago, something like that.
Yep.
Feel free to make their way north. They
and yeah, it's terrible, all the bombed out stuff. But
along the Mediterranean, heading north towards Gaza City.
People are able to go home now.
That their governing forces decided to start a war, and then hide behind women and children.
Yeah.
And really? I hope so. This is good news, and I hope it sticks. I've seen some really disturbing stuff recently about, you know, what Hamas is doing in Gaza right now. But it's a first step that isn't just continuous killing of each other.
Yeah.
Now, the killing hasn't stopped. You know, Hamas just, you know, did open air executions of the dissidents and all that stuff. But
yeah, and this is very gray. You know, there's really people, and the Palestinian people are just people. Yeah. And then there's, you know, a government in Israel that, you know, we can have opinions on how it operates and how well it's responded to the crisis in various ways. And then, of course, we can look at Hamas and call them out and quite effectively as well.
And then also you can call out the people that actually, like, Hamas is what they voted for as well.
Or the blind people over here that are upset about what's happening to Palestinians, and then they start supporting Hamas and genocide of Israelis, and they don't even really realize that they're supporting people that
hate you and want you dead.
That don't believe in equal rights for women at all. You know, you think it's... Well, you think you got a serious problem here with the patriarchy?
It's even worse than that. It's
it's so egalitarian.
You can imagine them taking their women and their children and shielding them.
Oh yeah,
from all this stuff.
When you go to court, a woman's word is worth half of what a man's is. You can't drive. You're not allowed to go to school. You know, you're gonna have to stone a family member if you find out that they're gay and so forth.
But women can divorce their husbands, which there's an interesting story in the Quran about that one.
But anyways, we're gonna go on the side here, but. Yeah, just to see that there's actually
peace deal,
peace between Israel and Palestine is incredible. I didn't know if I'd ever see that in my lifetime. I'm kind of shocked by it. And I was happy to see that even Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden actually, gave credit to Trump for this. And, whatever you think of Trump, you got to give credit for this success because it's clearly a success. Now, whether both of these sides can live up to this peace accord, we shall see.
Yeah.
But God, let's hope it actually holds because we've never seen this happen before.
And for y'all end times people, so there's a saying, when there's peace in the Middle East, it'll be the end times. Well, there's not peace in the Middle East. Actually, Afghanistan and Pakistan just went at each other.
Yeah,
so for all y'all that's thinking the world's ending, we're not quite there yet.
Boy.
Yeah, sorry.
So, and then a little bit more good news out there, guys. This one's interesting. The first antidote for carbon monoxide poisoning, a way to clean the blood out in minutes. That's huge.
Yeah, it's going to save a lot of
lives, a lot of brain cells.
Well, particularly for people that were like in fires and stuff like that.
Oh my God, yeah. It's invisible, it's lethal, and it's been with us for decades. But carbon monoxide poisoning can now be fought with the first ever antidote that rapidly removes the toxic molecule from the bloodstream. It accounts for about 50,000 emergency room visits every year, causes about 1,500 deaths, each one being lamented as a shameful waste and tragic oversight. Currently, the only treatments are oxygen-based therapies, which help the body eliminate the toxic gas. However, even with treatment, nearly half of survivors suffer long-term heart and brain damage, which has created an urgent need for faster, more effective interventions. So it has been done. That is friggin' great news. They engineered a version that's highly selective, grabbing CO without interfering with oxygen or other important molecules in the bloodstream, like nitric oxide, which is vital for the regulation of blood pressure. So it works.
And boners. Nitric oxide. Yeah, sorry.
And then this one's really cool. Biodegradable plastic made from bamboo is stronger than normal plastic, and it's easy to recycle, and we're not going to be having to worry about microplastics. That's awesome. GNN has reported previously on how versatile bamboo is for construction and crafts, so maybe it shouldn't be a surprise that researchers in China, oh boy, have found a way to turn. But hey, good job, scientists in China. It's not the government; it's just the scientists.
Also, they've got a crap load of bamboo in China, and they've been using it for a long time. So, good on your researchers.
Deep ancient wisdom in China. So, while many biodegradable materials have already been developed for replacing light or flexible plastic, durable or rigid plastic replacements are few. Yeah. The kinds of plastic used for tools, car interiors, appliance exteriors, stuff that needs to be dense and strong, have few, if any, biodegradable replacements. So we've developed a method for turning cellulose from bamboo into rigid yet biodegradable plastic that outperforms not only alternative biodegradable options, but plastic itself for mechanical strength and thermomechanical properties. The thing about this that I like the best is that it's going to break down naturally in the environment if it's not properly recycled. You could just throw it into your compost and it's going to break down.
Well, and here's one cool thing about
no more microplastics.
Bamboo and other grasses, but they can suck up a lot of unsavory chemicals and other stuff like that. And in the soil. It grows like crazy. So like once you plant bamboo, you have bamboo for life.
So it helps transmute the harmful.
So you can take all that stuff out, and then while you're making plastic out of the outsides of the cells, you can then contain the other stuff, and you're pulling toxins out of the ground. Mm-hmm. Kind of like mushrooms will take.
Helping save the soil, which is actually a serious issue as well.
Yeah. Now, mind you, too much bamboo can deplete the soil, but if you do it in rotations and rounds with other things, because it is a grass. Yeah. So if you treat it like grass,
it's really hard to get rid of. Yeah.
But I mean, it's like, oh yeah, dude, you got to dig it out of the ground. You got to get every little rhizome out of the ground, or else you're going to get more bamboo. So don't plant bamboo as a divider between you and your neighbor, or else you and your neighbor are going to be fighting.
Or your neighbor's going to hate you. Yeah.
Yep. But it's really good stuff, in its raw form. You can build with it. You can make a whole bunch. You can make flutes with it. You can make other stuff. Kids' playhouses, chopsticks. You could probably grind it down into pellets for pellet stoves. Oh, dude,
so you're not using bleached.
That bamboo toilet paper is the most luxurious toilet paper on the planet.
Really?
It feels like wiping your butt.
I've been wanting to order some and try it out, man.
Yeah. Is it Bambusa or is it I forget what the brand was, but man, that maybe that's rolling papers, the big Bambusa rolling papers. But there's some joke on the name bamboo, and they made it was a toilet paper that was super soft, and it wasn't like the thin, sandpaper on your behind kind of stuff. And it broke down really well in a septic system too, which is the other thing. So for people on septic, actually, even if you're doing sewer stuff, having paper products that break down quicker. Regular paper.
Bamboo butt.
Bamboo butt.
That would be a good toilet paper brand.
Or
Bambooty.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Bambooty.
Bambooty.
Bambooty. And then have
Bam. You're clean.
Then have like a pirate with like a chest that's open with bamboo coming out of it. Bambooty.
Nice. There you go.
Hey, somebody steal our idea and make good toilet paper.
Yes.
But yeah, good
Hey,
news,
what's up, Shavaya? Came late, might watch this later. Awesome. Yeah.
Cool. Well, good to have you in for the end. We're doing a short one.
Unconditional love is the only solution. Call it what you want. Amen. 100%. I had asked the question. Oh, and she wrote here as well.
Okay.
Matthew 18:3, and he said, "Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." Yes, that freshness, that newness, that sense of wonder, that naturally automatic unconditional lovingness towards others.
And without the cynical buffer that you get as you get older, that say, "Oh, that can't be true." You know, we've been doing it this way all the whole time. You know, it's like when they say, you know, you're seeing the world through a child's eyes. It's like, oh, it's new, it's fresh, it's beautiful. You can see the magic behind, you know, the magic in stuff instead of the guy behind the puppet. So, you know, like, you know, when you go to, like, I remember going to an amusement park when I was a kid, and it's just like, oh, it's all magical and all cool. And then you go as an adult, and you're like, guy's probably a creeper in that costume.
I think this is also saying, like, forget innocence in the sense of forget everything.
Yeah.
Okay, come as though you're seeing for the first time.
And then also
experiencing for the first time.
And knowing your place in the relationship with God as a child. Because that's the thing. It's not a coincidence that we refer to ourselves as children of God.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because he's the ultimate elder to us. He's the ultimate guide, the ultimate example.
And then the church ideally models the family structure, right?
Yep.
So,
dig it.
Yeah. It's a good
guys, thank you so much for tuning in this episode. Thank you for your comment, Shavaya. Yeah, that's a great scripture there. And thank you all so much for tuning in to this episode of Meaning Making 101 here on Actuali Podcast, where we try to make sense of this world together and change this world from the inside out. I've been Chris.
I've been DJ.
And we're going to dance our way on out of here. We'll see you guys next week. That's 7 p. Eastern Standard Time, right here, YouTube, X, Twitch, Facebook, Rumble. Come out and join us. All right, y'all. Love you guys.
Peace.
Oh, yeah.
A super slow fade today. See how slow I can make this fade while I'm bouncing. Oh, yeah. Thank you for joining us. Be back next week.